What it do, peeps? It's the Beat Chef. Watch the damn tape. On Monday's first take, Andraya Carter returned after a long hiatus, and she had an interesting interaction with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe. And it was all based around the Olympic snub of Caitlin Clark. So let's get into it and listen to see what Andraya and the fellas had to say.
This team started 1-8, and they all stayed the course. She allowed her teammates to lead her in certain moments and calm her down in certain moments while still playing the game and being herself out there on the floor, while also dealing with a ton of BS and noise off the court. Caitlin Clark can be used as a unit of measurement from here on out when it comes to noise around the game of basketball. We will be able to in the future say, well, this compares to what Caitlin Clark had to deal with because there was so much noise and she dealt with it and she handled it, and her team is in the playoffs. It is a masterclass when you think about the way she was able to perform this season as a rookie.
Stephen A., I would be remiss if I didn't say this. A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But there was a lot of people tried to make sure they keep Caitlin Clark in her place because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize what they done. You can't minimize what Maya Moore or Candace Parker or Lisa Leslie or Lauren Jackson or Diana Taurasi or Simone Augustus or any of the other great players. That Caitlin Clark, what she's doing doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old guard. Y'all never talked about the old guard like this. Nah, I ain't going to let it slide. Caitlin Clark, unanimous Rookie of the Year. But what's even more impressive, she's first team WNBA. First.
You know, Shannon, I hear you, right? I hear you 100%. But another level of noise was coming from people. You were one of them who also tried to create a picture around Caitlin that the league was against her based on the actions of less than 5 former players or current players, which also creates a lot of noise. Like we saw during the All-Star game, the league and the players in this league like Caitlin. They enjoy Caitlin. They had so much fun with Caitlin. So there was noise created from every single
was pointing the finger directly at you, because
I'll come not me.
I'll come to your defense about that. But let me also make this a point. You're not entirely accurate with what you just said, because guess what? Whether it was Shannon, whether it was myself, we didn't paint a picture of the entire league. What we said was there was noise out there emanating from some, and those folks were very, very loud and conspicuous with their dissent towards things involving Caitlin Clark. When we pointed that out, we said why. What was the necessity for it? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. This woman is box office. Plus, she can play. And the combination of the two would ultimately give all of those wonderful ladies for the wonderful work that they had done over so many years. It would have been validated, even though it came through the conduit was her. Ultimately, it stood to benefit the collective whole. And rather than some out there accepting and embracing that, they resented it, and they tried to use the contributions of others who came before Caitlin Clark to justify their vitriol instead of owning the fact that what really was their objective and what really was their agenda is that they resented the fact that this young lady who came into the league, took it by storm, and drew in a level of attention that they weren't able to draw. That was the reality.
One thing I want to say before we go to break, really quick, Dre, I think one of the impetuses, especially for this conversation, was obviously her not getting an Olympic roster spot, right? Remember, we had a big debate over that. Was she deserving of it? Was it more the marketing, the hype? And here's what I'll say, and I know, Andraya, that you agree. At that point, some of us felt like maybe she hadn't proved it in the WNBA, but at this point, she certainly has. So she proved everybody wrong.
What about the guards? Let's talk about the guards that didn't make it. Talk about the guards that didn't make it. How they play, Andraya? Because you were one of the ones that say she didn't earn it. How did the guards play that within the Olympics? How did they play?
For sure, but we can't take how Caitlin finished the W season and pivot that to how she would have done in the Olympics. That's a completely different argument.
All I'm saying is look at that point. Look at how she played up until that point. Chelsea Gray had only played one game before she went to the Olympics. She was outplaying Diana Taurasi. Was she outplaying Diana Taurasi at that point in time that she was on the team? It's a simple yes or a simple no.
Was Caitlin outplaying Diana Taurasi? But you can't just factor in current play, Shannon. That's all I'm saying. You got to factor in. If you're factoring in Diana Taurasi's Olympic experience, Diana Taurasi's how she was with the team. I get it.
Shannon, hold on 1 second. Shannon,
this ain't a lifetime. This wasn't an Olympic lifetime achievement.
Shannon Sharpe, hold on 1 second. What we're saying is you guys were right. That's what we're saying. You
no,
were right.
Molly, you did not say that, Molly. No,
that is what you said.
That's not what you said, Molly.
What are you guys
that is not what you said.
I literally just brought it up.
You were talking about You were talking about folks making the point that, at the time that they had picked the Olympic team, Caitlin Clark didn't necessarily deserve it based on her play on the court. When the point that Shannon and I was making at the time was that, wait a minute, in the end, there are people that have ended up on Team USA for reasons other than just their elite play at that particular moment in time.
She was a marketing whiz. Right. And she was a marketing because she is a marketing whiz and she did it on the court. That's what I'm saying.
We were saying, Molly.
So you were ahead of the curve.
You're not listening, Molly. You're not listening. I'm talking about your point, Molly. Your point.
And I'm explaining it to you.
At the end of the day, we were making the point. Do you want to promote the league or not? And people like Andraya and others were resistant to that playing a role in somebody making the roster for Team USA. And we were saying, hell with that. You want to promote the sport. You put that girl up in there, and people were appalled at that notion. That was the subject.
But Stephen A., this is just going to come from different perspectives because you all's initial point was a marketing point, and that was what I was arguing with. That was what I was arguing with, the marketing point for Caitlin. What Molly is trying to say, and what I agree with, is now that we have seen how Caitlin finished this season, there is a good basketball argument for her being on the team, for her making the team. There is now a great basketball argument. But listen, no, Shannon, listen. How she's playing right now, you just said it 5 minutes ago, was a testament to the rest that she had and the break that she had. We don't know how she would have played without that break. So we're saying Caitlin has now proven herself basketball-wise, but you all weren't making a basketball argument. You weren't making a basketball argument.
We're not saying we were making a basketball argument. Andrea, I'm not going to let you do that.
Go ahead,
Andrea, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlin Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
No, it wasn't a handout.
Look at her numbers.
Shannon,
comparable to the other guards that were on the team. That's all I'm saying.
No. I hear you, but when I talked to members of the Olympic Committee, the questions were of fatigue, of rest, and of the physicality and FIBA rules, and of lack of continuity with Team USA, which were things that she did not have. I'm not disputing Caitlin's greatness on the court. That's not what I'm disputing at all. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm not disputing her play.
We got to go to commercial. Let's come back.
Let's come back.
Let's come back. Hold on. We got to go. No. We got to go to commercial. Shake. Come back. Let's come back. Let's go to commercial.
That was a hell of an interaction. I love the way Shannon slow roasted Andraya. She tried to backpedal, and he said, no. Come on back, baby. Get this work. I need you to get this work. And she was really being disingenuous. The part about, I talked to some of the Olympic Committee members, she never said that back in July. Had she said, I've talked to Olympic members, this is why they felt that Caitlin needed the rest, fatigue, long college season coming into the WNBA, people would have kind of understood it. If she had added that context back in July, she said nothing of the sort. She said this after the fact. She's been missing for almost a month and a half on First Take. So So she's a pro old school person. If she had just said, "Hey, I felt Diana should have been on the team," because Shannon brought that up back in July, and she had no words. She just said, "Oh, they got camaraderie, and it'd be late, it'd be a disaster." And she tried to swing the marketing angle, which they talked about, which is true. They talked about that back in July. They also said, especially Shannon, said, "I can name 2 guards that are playing better than the other guards." He mentioned Taurasi. He mentioned Chelsea Gray being on the team after only playing 1 game. They had nothing. He brought that same conversation back up. Caitlin was averaging 16 at the time they were getting ready for the Olympics. She's averaging almost 20. Andrea didn't have a comeback for it. She tried to deflect. Even Molly tried to get in and say, "Oh, we're apologizing. We're agreeing with you." No, that wasn't an apology. Y'all side-skirted it. And if you watch the video, I'm going to link it in the description. If you watch the full video, they went to break and they came back. They didn't let Shannon finish the thought. I'm pretty sure the network's execs said, "Please let Andrea have the last word and let's get on to the NFL commentary." And she got out of there with the last word. Look at the face Stephen A is making when they come back from break. Just look at his face, and you can tell that somebody told him in his ear, lighten up on Andrea. Lighten up on her. You can see it. I just don't understand the massive amount of jealousy that's coming from ex-players. And Shannon put it well. You giving Caitlin Clark her praise and her flowers now does not diminish what Candace Parker, who's my all-time favorite female basketball player, it doesn't diminish what Candace Parker did, what Cheryl Swoops did, Tisha Pinachero, none of the ladies, even last week, Cynthia Cooper, Rebecca Lobo, and Lisa Leslie all came out and gave super praise to Caitlin Clark. Gave her flowers. They know each generation does something better for the next one. What those ladies laid the foundation for is what Caitlin Clark and other females that are playing women's basketball are going to benefit. The league as a whole and women's basketball in general is going to benefit. It's going to benefit greatly. More money's going to come in, more eyes. There's going to be more sponsorships. There's going to be smaller shoe companies, big shoe companies wanting to grab the ones that are marketable and carry themselves a certain way and give them money. It's going to be all kind of money coming into the league if they can just keep their heads out of their asses. That's it. Andrea knows that. Chanae knows that. Carolyn Peck knows that. They just wanted to be the person that they wanted to be. They wanted to be, whether it's Asia or it's Dejanay, Alicia Gray, they wanted to be somebody other than the slim white chick from Iowa who can ball. That's it. That's what it all boils down to. Even if Caitlin Clark was black, I still believe these women would have vitriol towards her. I still believe it. The media members, most of them are ex-hoopers. They can't stand her. They hate to even give her praise. They hate when men give her praise. It's the craziest thing in the world. I've never seen immature women in sports. It's a new day. But this was this first take. Like I said, I put the link in the description. This first take was classic. And it's going to continue. But that's my thoughts on that. Until next time, peace.